Hey there, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, the podcast where we dig into ideas and insights that help you to unleash what you were born to bring. I get to chat with heart led experts. I get to ask the questions that I know you're thinking about, and we explore conversations that spark growth, that shift perspectives, and help you to show up fully in life, at work, for your family, everywhere. So today we are exploring the following topic: when your calling keeps calling. And this conversation is worth your while because no matter how hard you try to ignore your calling, it's not going to let you go because it's a part of who you are. So, together, we're going to explore the cost of resisting what lights you up and what's possible when you stop letting fear, judgment, whatever, keep you small, right? Because this is one precious life. That's all you have right now. And it is meant to be lived very fully. And when you do, you know what happens? Your unique gifts ripple out to others. So I'm your host, Linda Bucher, and honestly, I have the best job in the world. I get to help impact-driven humans like you to get unstuck and unleash what you were born to bring. Yeah, it's my superpower. But guess what? For decades, I was not living my calling, right? I tried to live life like everyone else thought I should, and it left me stuck and frustrated and feeling like my gifts were just like waiting, like they were waiting. I mean, they were patient, but really, I made them wait a long time. And so when I finally made a choice to stop chasing someone else's version of what success was supposed to look like and started stepping into my own version of success, that journey didn't just change my life. It became my mission, right? So that was my calling. What, right? So now I get to do the work I love, right? Which I already said what I do. So you know what that is. And so if you are like, oh my gosh, I want to stop holding back and I'd love to step fully into who I am and unleash what I was born to bring, just go say hello at lindabucher.com. There's a lot of goodness waiting over there for you. Insights, inspiration, freebies, all sorts of good stuff. Okay. So we're going to dive into the conversation when your calling keeps calling. And I'm so excited to be having this conversation today with Hilary Harley. Her company is Harley Holistic Healing, and Hilary is a soul guide. She's an astrologer and she's a holistic healer. And you know how she's making ripples? She explains people to themselves. And when she said that to me, I was like, oh, ooh, tell me more. So, like, what a phenomenal hook. So, Hilary, thank you for being here, first of all. I'm so excited that you're here. And can you tell us a little bit more about like how you explain people to themselves?
Thank you so much for having me, Linda. I'm so happy to be here and share. I am an astrologer by trade, and the birth chart, the natal birth chart, shows people who come to me, my clients, their blessings, their challenges. It's like a GPS system and a map of the sky the moment you were born, and it shows where you're going, where you're coming from, and how to get there.
That's pretty amazing. like, um, you know, if people are like, listen, they're like, wait a minute, life comes with a map. Are you telling me, Hilary, that life comes with a map? I want
Life
the map.
comes with a roadmap.
It
It
comes with a
it does
roadmap.
indeed.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh. Okay. So,
So,
oh,
it's exciting because astrology is really growing. It for a long time it was sort of taboo and oh, you don't do that. But the younger generations are really embracing it, and a life doesn't have to be rocket science. It's so difficult. Like, where am I going? What am I doing? Why is this happening to me? It's all right there. And you just need to have somebody explain it, and then you can explain it to yourself.
that's fantastic. Okay. So I'm excited today because we've got such a wonderful agenda to talk about, and you're going to actually demonstrate like
Hmm.
a tiny little something. So that's very
Yep.
cool. Okay. All right. So let's first of all talk about callings, right? Because here's our title: When Your Calling Keeps Calling.
Hmm.
So some people are like, well, what if I don't have a calling? Like, what does a calling look like when I don't know what it looks like? Right. So I would say in general, it's something that you just keep coming back to, that you just like, you really love. You just love doing it and it's never gone away, something you've always loved.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's knocking. It starts sometimes when you're little, sometimes when you're a teenager or a young adult. It's like, ooh, it can feel like Christmas Day, like a present. And it can feel like an epiphany or an awakening or, oh, wow, this is juicy, rich, sexy, delicious. I want more of this. And some of us are very supported in our callings. We have parents and friends and networks and society that can say, hey, this is, you're doing the thing. And then there are a lot of us, I would argue to say the majority of us that have a calling. I am one of them. Astrology was not on my parents' bingo card for me, not on my life plan. And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "But I love it. Since I was little, I've always loved the stars and the explanations, the mythology and the stories around astrology." And so I put it away for a long time. I too resisted, and it kept knocking. And
Mhm.
finally, when I was in my early 30s, my kids were little, it was like, okay, are you going to do this or are you not going to do this? And what was holding me back was, what will people think?
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
going bananas. She's not doing what she was trained to do. She's stepping into this weird alternative place because back in the early 90s, when I was really starting to see clients and coming out of the closet with this, it was like, who does she think she is? What's happening to her?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's really common. So just to go back to a calling, it could be something that's followed you your whole life that you've loved. But it
Mhm.
also, like, I didn't know there was no such thing as the life coach when I was a kid, right? So
Right.
there was nothing that I would say that was like always attached to me and following in terms of what I'm doing that I do feel is my calling now. But that
100%.
epiphany feeling, I absolutely had that. um, I was like, when you resist, and it was probably there because I had bought the book that led me to what I'm doing today
Hmm.
9 years before I heeded the call, right? So we're like saying, like, I didn't know that was my calling, but that book 9 years later, that
Hmm.
I found it again in the bottom of my cedar chest, um, led me to a website which said become a coach. And I had a physical, emotional, like experience in that moment, like, oh, I'm supposed to be a life coach. What is a life coach? I don't know, but I'm supposed to be a
Right.
life coach, right? I'm supposed to be a guide, right? That was really it. And
Right.
then when I look back, I can say, where was I lit up the most in? Because I was trained as a computer programmer. I have an
Right.
MBA. I was
Right.
like,
Right.
like I did some finance. I did marketing. Like I did all the business stuff, right? And then I can look back and say, but when was I a guide? When was I a teacher and a guide? All the time. In every job I've ever had, that's what I was
Hmm.
drawn to do. So sometimes the epiphany shows you that you've always been doing this. Okay. So then you brought up resistance, which is really important. And you're right. The majority of people, especially when you're called, like if you're called to be a doctor, right? That's so accepted. Your parents are like, oh, like
Right.
society, like you're called to
Right.
be a doctor. You're called. That's beautiful. Some people I know, their whole lives they knew they wanted to be a doctor. Um,
Hmm.
but when you're called to do something that people are like, what now? What now? What
Right.
is
Right.
that?
You're
Right?
what?
Like it's
Explain that at a cocktail party.
exactly when they don't understand, right? That's what we take as meaning we're being judged. And it's usually not so much a judgment as a fear
Mhm.
of like my parents. When I said I'm a single mom, I was a widowed mom of three little kids, and I'm like, I'm quitting my really high paying ego important job in the corporate world,
Mhm.
to go back to school, become a life coach. Right? And they're like,
Mhm.
"You're doing what?" Right? So we get met with this pushback, and then we
Right.
make it mean something about us, like maybe we're not smart enough, or maybe whatever, or maybe, maybe we might lose important relationships. We follow that calling. So the resistance is real, right? It's big.
Yes. So I that is the first soul test, the resistance that comes up. It's like, okay, how important is this to you? It's attached to value and self-worth. And if it's not that important to you, you won't pursue it. If it doesn't ring your bells and scratch the itch, you're gonna walk away from it. I mean, we all have multiple talents, but some of them are really in there, juicy and ripe. And just so if you keep pushing back, it'll be patient. Your soul is eternal. It's going to be
Yeah.
very patient and it'll say, okay, not today. Let's try in 18 months. And then it'll come back around and you'll be in a circumstance, you'll be in a conversation. I gave you the example of a friend of mine who is a corporate attorney, but loves to bake. And it's her greatest superpower. I mean, she is so skilled at it, but her parents, oh, we've spent all this money. You're doing so well, in this external driven world that we live in.
Mhm. Yeah.
And how could she forsake? This is the kind of language we put around it. How could you
Right.
walk away from something you're so externally approved, you get so much approval from, to to
Yep.
bake?
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes a real, first you have to make peace with that yourself. And then it's like, okay, what I think is much more important than what other people think. And it's on them to come to terms with accepting who I am now.
Right. Or not, because we don't know if they're
Or
going to
not,
or not. However, we need
100%.
to, and I do this work with every client I ever have. We need to repair our sense of worthiness to the point where we do value ourselves and our own happiness more than we value the judgment or misunderstanding or misinterpretation of other people and
Hmm.
what they're going to say, because we no longer need outside validation. Because when we get there, it's not selfish, but that's the only place from which we can give our beautiful gifts out into the world and make the difference that we are here to make.
Right.
So, the cost of resisting, real quick before we move on, because we got some juicy stuff to talk about. The cost of resisting. For me, I mentioned 9 years between when
Hmm.
I must have set such a powerful intention, and I know it because I remember saying it out loud. I go, I don't know what life I'm meant to be living, but it's not this one. And I felt guilty because on paper, it looked awesome. Like it really
Right.
did. Good job, marriage, children, house at the lake,
Yeah.
like all that kind of stuff, right? But I said it out loud. I set such a power intention. And that's when the universe said to me, oh, you're ready to listen? Okay. And so then it brought me this book, right? And it was like,
Hmm.
oh, right. It brought me this book. And then I wasn't ready to heed the call. I was ready for the change, but I wasn't ready to do what I needed to do to find the change, which was to learn more about myself, which totally segues into what we're going to be talking about. So the cost of resisting for me became physical as well as emotional. My
Hmm.
body started just like that's when you're not following your internal compass. If you are smart and you listen to what your body's saying, it shows you. It's like really noisy when you're going the wrong way. It's like make a U-turn. How does it tell you to do that? For me, it was my gallbladder just stopped. It was like working at 24% capacity. I think they wanted to take it out. It's totally fine now that I'm following my North Star.
Hmm.
My back and neck were so tight and so much in pain. I couldn't sit for more than 5 minutes in my office or at a meeting. I couldn't sleep for more than 15 minutes without waking up to have to move because I was always in pain. So that pain finally was like, that was like the calling when you said it keeps on knocking. It just got louder and louder until like hit me over the head with a frying pan. So
Right.
there's the giant cost of resisting, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you brought up physical symptoms because the first line of defense is an invitation. It's like, oh, wow, this feels like something I want to pursue. And then the personality and the ego attached to the personality pushes back and says, yeah, but, yeah, but, with all of the reasons why you shouldn't. And the more you push back, it doesn't always have to be a physical symptom, but it can be a crisis that emerges, a job loss,
Right.
a lifetime pivot and redirect where it's like, you're not going down that path anymore. And you might go through a phase of being completely lost until you do some self-reflection and get your bearings and say, okay, how do I want to proceed? And really take a look at, oh, maybe I should do the thing that seems ridiculous to everybody else, but feels so wonderful to me.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. Because when you do that, right? Because life doesn't have to be so hard, even in today's climate with everything that's going on, right? When you value yourself, right, and you follow that, your life will be easier, regardless of what's swirling around you. You will be the calm in the storm. You will be that, like, I had a girlfriend. I always have girlfriend get-togethers, like potlucks at my house a couple times a month. And the last one, I had some fun questions. And one of my questions was, what song plays when you walk into the room, right? And mine was the Pharrell Williams, "Cause I'm Happy." And they're like, that's so you, Linda, like every day, all the time, right? And and that's one of the big thing is following my feel good, following what lights me up, following my
Hmm.
passion, heeding the call, right? So
Yeah.
it can be so beautiful. Now, this begs the question. Okay, so our listener, you're saying, how, all right, everybody, I'm convinced. Okay, I want to follow my true north, right? Where is my true north? How do I find it, right? So
So
tell us.
that's definitely what we really look at is the endpoint, the destination on the natal chart, and it is represented by the lunar north node, meaning the moon has an evolutionary point that shows where you're going by astrological sign and by astrological house. Say what? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So, for example, you, Linda, you are going to the North Node in Cancer the Crab in the seventh house. Seventh house is relationships, partnerships, it's people. And Cancer the Crab is nurturing and nourishing. So you look at what you're doing. You're a life coach, you're working with people. Cancer the Crab is the mom. It's like, it doesn't have to be like cooking and cleaning and taking care of the house mom, but it is in enjoying and planting the seeds and helping people take those first initial steps and then all the way to graduation where they're launched, and they're flying the nest and they're doing the thing by themselves. That is your true north. So each of us has this directional marker in our chart that shows it's like the end point of the GPS, and it says this is where your whole life purpose is and it's your calling, what keeps calling you over and over. And what I want to emphasize is there's no deadline. It's like if you keep resisting it, it's not going away. it's going to come circle back and say, hey, this is really important. And it makes you feel so joyful inside. Do you want to keep ignoring it? Sure, go ahead. And, that's
Right.
fine. So that's
Yeah.
your North Node.
Okay. So beautiful. Thank you. And everyone, I gave Hillary my birth date, place, and time. And that's how she quickly looked that up. So I happened to find it and follow it. And then what you just told me, which I've heard for the first time ever in my whole life, is like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing all the time. All the
Hmm.
time, whether a client comes to me in their 40s or 50s and said, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, but it's not what I chose, kind of because I was
Hmm.
45 when I asked that question of myself. Or I also work a lot with young adults, like 20 somethings. And that is, I'm nurturing them and teaching them life skills. And so I'm already doing all that, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I love
Hmm.
that. I'm on the path, but I happen to find it. So if someone hasn't found it yet or they've been ignoring it, if you gave them their North Node, if
Hmm.
they contacted you, then they could have a clue as to where it is, right? So it's not like it has to be the way it turned out for me, where I happened to find it because I had such a powerful intention and I was ready, not ready for over 9 years. So if someone's
Right.
not there yet and they're just like wandering in this wandering mode, like I don't know if you could tell them this, you could tell them what their North Node is, and then they could start to align their
Yeah,
more with
that's
it.
exactly what I do. I mean, 90% of my clients are in search of self. They're lost, they're at a crossroads, they're at a juncture. They've been doing the thing, working for the man or whoever, or, fulfilling the programming and the conditioning that they were raised in. And now it's like, I can't keep doing this life, spending my time. Time is money, money is power. Spending all this time when I'm not getting fulfilled, reaching
Right,
fulfillment
right.
and not fulfilling what I feel is my potential. So it's really pulling that apart and just saying, as ridiculous as it might sound to other people, you were made to be a nurse. You were made to be a baker. You were made to be an artist. Lots of different things. I mean, where I am going is different than where you're going, than where your next door neighbor is going, or where your child is going.
Mm.
So it's watching your projections and other people's projections onto you.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so now let's just, we have two more things I want to touch upon before we finish up. One is the magic of saying yes to your calling.
Hmm.
So I know what I experience
Right?
when I finally said yes. Turns out that the journey of becoming a life coach that I did 15, 16 years ago revealed so much about who I am because I wasn't really ever asking myself that question, right? Because we're so stuck in our roles and responsibilities.
Hmm.
So I never asked. So I started asking, "Who am I?" And then I started shedding the baloney, the schmutz on my light, right? Because we can't see the world clearly when it's all our lenses are covered in schmutz. We can't be our true self and the gift that we are to the world when our light is covered up in schmutz. So like deschmutzing is part of what we do as life coaches, but I deschmutzed at the time as well as I was going through the
Hmm.
journey. So the coolest thing for the magic of saying yes was my own profound transformation, like
Hmm.
transformation. Like I was a caterpillar and now a butterfly, and I was,
Right.
like the
Right.
transformation was huge. So not only do we feel more aligned and do good in the world, but the change that we get to go through. And I know it seems scary
Right.
because it's unknown, but it's kind of like we get to like it's an honor and a privilege. And
Right.
yeah, and so yes, I found a bunch of bullshit that I didn't know I had, but it was an honor and privilege to unpack it and get rid of it, right? So
Right.
that is a beautiful thing when we can do that. So that's a huge part of saying yes is you also have to be willing to get rid of the resistance, to do what it takes to get rid of it, to deschmutz,
Hmm.
what's going on.
I
And
love that.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes even to accept other modalities of support, right? So maybe
Right.
someone listening is like, wait a minute, astrology, what are you saying? Like the
Right.
openness. I can't tell you how much personal growth I've had because I am so open to all modalities. Every single one
Hmm.
shows me more of who I am. And the more I know who I am, the more I can align my life with who I am, align my life with my talents. And that is how we live our calling. That's how we do it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. What I want people to really hear is how exciting, and every day you get up and you're like, wow, I get to live this life. It's like opening a birthday present every day or a Christmas present, or pick your favorite holiday present. It's like, oh, I this is my life now. And before, there's like this going around and around on a merry-go-round treadmill, same old, same old, same old, and it's exhausting. And when the resistance of putting that down, and yes, there's fear I call false evidence appearing real.
Mhm.
No, I did not make that up myself, but that is what comes with the resistance. But on the continuum of fear, the other end is excitement.
Mhm.
Wow, I get to do this. And what happens is you open the door, a little bit of light comes in, and you get opportunities that come as soon as you begin to answer that call. What This is the magic that you're talking about of answering the call, is all of a sudden somebody else wants you to fulfill that baking order. I mean, pick whatever your joy is, and or whatever is calling your name. It's like, I'll give you an example from my own life. All of a sudden people wanted to have me do my their astrology charts and explain themselves to themselves. And so this is what happens. And then, yeah, sure, there's a little bit of money attached to that, and it comes in, and then you can, oh, my, I have an astrology teacher, a world famous astrology teacher right down the road, literally like a couple streets away. I mean, the universe conspires to help you fulfill and answer that calling.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, when we're in alignment, the synchronicities are incredible.
Crazy,
People wouldn't believe, like, you won't believe it till it happens to you.
crazy.
But
It's
it will
crazier than
happen.
anything that you could write.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's really wild. So beautiful. Okay. So I like to always leave our listeners with some small thing. Now, I know, listener, you want to go on to another episode of Conversations Worth Your While because they're always worth your while. But before you do, um, so that you can, like do something based on what we've talked about today, because
Mhm.
getting into action, no matter how small, tells the universe this is where you want to go. So even a tiny small action is the right action. So something small that we can do, you could do right now to say yes, just to say yes, because your calling keeps calling. So Hilary, what would you say someone can do something really small?
Just look around you, what class you could take, ask questions. That's a really small step. Just
Mhm.
ask a question. Is there a course I could take in my community? Is there a conversation I can have with a mentor, somebody who's already in the field doing the
Mm,
thing?
right.
How would I learn? I'm big into education. I think you are too, as well. And how can I understand more about this topic and what I'd be getting into?
Right. Because knowledge is there's many ways to remove fear, false evidence appearing real. I've also heard that before. One of them is knowledge. The more you know, the less
Mhm.
unknown, because unknown is scary, right? So the more you know. So if you're like, I love bird watching, what if that's my calling, even though I'm an accountant, right? Right. So take a course, maybe look into a course about bird watching, or maybe look online and see if there's people who are doing something with bird watching that they're actually making a living. Because when like one of the things that you can ask yourself is, has anybody anywhere ever done this for a living? And the answer is always going to be yes. And then you're like,
Yes.
huh, now I know it can be done. And that moves you on the belief continuum from impossible, not bloody likely when pigs fly, over to possible. And possible is that magic tipping point, right? You get to possible. Once your brain thinks it's possible, now it'll ask the ever important question of how. Okay.
Right.
So get yourself to possible. That's my one small thing. Has anyone ever in the history of human time ever made a living or been successful doing this thing I feel called to know more about or align with? Okay.
Right.
And if the answer is yes, you've gotten yourself to possible. Now you can ask how.
Right.
Boom, right there.
Right. Right.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, Hilary, this has been such a beautiful conversation. I am so excited that
Thank
you are
you.
here. I appreciate it so much. So if someone wants to find their north node, and I just want to point out, that's you said where like I'm going, but you also help people to find where they've come from, right? There's more. That you've got a lot more than just your north node to share with people.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot more. There are 10
Yeah.
planets that are each, they're like little kids and each voices, and they're pulling at us all the time. But yeah, there's a continuum, as you said. There's where you're coming from, which is often the place that we're stuck,
Mm.
and the North Node, which represents where you're going, the calling that keeps calling your name, and it's not going to stop.
Right. Okay. Good. So if someone wants to learn more about this, get their own chart read, or just, you know, they're on that journey. Like I have every client that I ever work with, have them do other things to learn more about themselves. Like I would probably
Mhm.
have them, if they're open, obviously they
Right,
have to agree. If they're open, I would have them come to you and, get their chart
right,
read. I ask them to go do a Colby index to find out their MO.
right,
I
right.
might ask them if they know what their Myers-Briggs is or what's your human design. Go find that out because the more you find out who you are and what your natural proclivities and natural gifts are, the more you can align your life to that. And that's how we live our calling. So if
100%.
they
Yeah.
want that from you, what do they do?
HilaryHarley.com. Hilary has one L, Hilary, Harley.com.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, I hope everyone goes to visit there. I'll make sure to put that into the show notes
Thank
for
you
sure.
so much.
Oh, you are welcome. Okay. Thank you. Woo! All right. Okay. So that's our show. Once again, I'm Linda Bucher, and I am on a mission. Yes, I am. I'm on a mission to inspire and impact millions of people to know their worth, to share their gifts, and deliberately create big, beautiful ripples in this world. So if you're ready to finally get unstuck, get out of your own way, get to that next level, get the most out of your life, and spread your gifts, then head on over to lindabucher.com. It is just a great first step. And if this episode sparked something in you, just be sure to like it and to subscribe to the podcast and then share with someone else that you care about, right? And come back next week for another honest, uplifting conversation to help you grow. So until next time, please make sure you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.